Man, what an anticlimactic Game 7.
Ah, man. Look, that final series was pretty good. It started off with a really
Oh, yeah,
good
yeah,
game,
yeah.
right?
Mm,
And then it just
right,
flattened out after that. You got let's do a quick recap, right? Game
right.
one
Mhm.
was an amazing Haliban game, buzzer beater,
Yep.
obviously game winner.
Hmm.
And then game two was as we expected, the Alex Caruso
Hmm.
game. I'm
Right.
gonna call it the Alex Caruso game from now on. He scored 20
Hmm.
points. He was amazing, and OKC just stomped him in the second.
Right.
And then again, uh, Pacers up 2-1 in the first
Yes.
game
Hmm.
in the first finals game in Indiana in 25 years.
25 years. Yep.
Crazy. And then we got that game four stinker, the Scott
Right.
Foster special.
Yeah, the Scott Foster special.
And pretty much the turning point of that series.
Mhm.
I really think that if Indiana just pulled that off, they would have won.
Yeah, they would have
Right?
won. Yeah.
I think it was regardless of what you think about Scott Foster. I think that
Hmm.
game was just the turning point, really.
Yeah.
And then game five,
Game 5,
um,
yeah.
going back to in it's just OKC just stayed away. Really, it's really hard
Right.
for um, Indiana to keep pace,
Mhm.
especially with Halliburton injuring himself as well in that
Right.
game with a
Yeah.
calf strain that ended
Yep.
up. But Indiana pulled it off in Game Six for some reason. They
Game
went back.
6 had the play of the finals.
That was amazing.
The the no look pass to the Siakam dunk.
That was crazy. That was supposed
Yeah.
to be a foul too, right? The
Yeah.
Halliburton steal, right? And
Yep.
then the look away pass to Pascal Spicy P, and then
Hmm.
that jam over J Dub. We expected
Yeah.
that uh, Indiana to pick up in Game Six, and they did. They did.
Yeah.
They fought for that was one of the most amazing games I've ever seen, just because of the fact that we saw a team that was desperate to stay in it,
Hmm.
and that's. I mean, look, we're Laker fans. That kind of game we've been missing for the last couple of
Right.
years.
Yeah.
But we saw it in Indiana. They didn't give
Hmm.
up. And then Game Seven, Halliburton
Yeah.
with 9 points in the first quarter, three pointers. It was one of the first times he's actually started off hot,
Yep.
and
And
then
then
tragedy stuck. We'll talk
yeah.
about it more later, but it was, yeah, as you said, it was
Oof.
anticlimactic.
Yeah.
But what about
Well.
OKC winning their first? I'm gonna okay,
Yeah.
so
I
their
mean.
first title ever. I mean, we're not gonna say they won two because that's Seattle. That I
Yeah.
think that's supposed to be going
Yeah.
back to Seattle when they get a team.
Mhm.
But what do you think about that first OKC championship?
Well. Talk about like I think the one thing that they kept talking about like after the finals, when OKC won it all, roster construction.
Mm.
The way that this team was, I think it was just 3 years ago when they were like 24-58 or something like that. Yeah, they were 21. They were a 20-win team 3 years ago. 2 years ago they were a 40-win team. Last year they were 57-25. Then this year they're 68-14. One of the greatest regular seasons.
Pretty
Talk
much.
about patience. Talk about building. You know, waiting. Talk about waiting for your stars to just gel and
Mm.
just be able to have that chemistry. And they just peaked. It was a team effort. Congratulations, Coach Mark, one of the youngest coaches to win it all.
Oh, is he?
Um,
Okay.
he was like four. I think he's 40.
Really?
Yeah,
Damn. Okay.
yeah,
Good
man.
job, bro.
Like, and the way that they played as a team, offensively and defensively. They all year round they won it with their defense.
Mm.
Um, Offensively they had all the right, they had all the right combinations, I guess. You had SGA as your first option, then you had guys like J Will, um, Chet Holmgren, Luke Dort, and yeah, you mentioned roster construction this off season. Um, getting Isaiah Hartenstein and Alex Caruso,
That was
I
big.
think
That was key. Yeah.
the I think I mean um, Josh Giddey's great, but I think the leadership and the veteran experience of Alex Caruso was the perfect missing piece.
That was it, right? Because
Yeah, there
you
was that
mentioned
last piece of the puzzle. You know,
you mentioned defense. That's kind
yeah,
of one of the things that
yeah,
was deadly for them. Let's
right.
forget about the offense real quick. We have some comments about how they played offense, and we've
Right.
talked about that a lot. But
Yeah.
the way
Yeah.
they played
But the
defensively,
defense was yeah.
right? It's just it felt like I don't know if you watch a lot of MMA, but it felt like
Hmm.
someone and I hate this guy. I'm not really a big fan, but it felt
Yeah.
like how Colby Covington fights to me. So the way Colby Covington fights is that
Confessington.
so the yeah, I mean he's not the most exciting fighter out there,
Right.
but the way he
Yeah.
fights is he just puts you on the back foot the whole fight. He forces you
Right.
to fight defensively,
Right.
right? The way he swarms on you, he never gives you
Hmm.
any time to breathe.
No.
He
Hmm.
just swarms on you every minute, every second. He
Hmm.
doesn't get tired, and that's what OKC was, and that's how I saw their
Right.
defense really.
Hmm.
Every
Swarming.
time
Yeah.
every time Indiana was even able to penetrate into the hole, you'd see
Hmm.
people swarming down, and every time
Right.
they kick out, everyone would go
Hmm.
back out. It's just the discipline on defenses.
Right.
I don't think I've
Yeah.
ever seen an NBA team play this good of a defensive
Hmm.
game plan apart from the two
Yeah.
thousand four Pistons, really.
Right.
They just stuck to their defensive game plan and never
Hmm.
let up. And you can feel the frustration uh, from the Indiana players because
Hmm.
that's the frustration I felt when I was watching the game. You, it's just hard to get an advantage against this OKC defense,
Yeah.
and even
Especially
if
the second half
yeah,
of Game 7.
and even if you did, right, you only have a split second to capitalize on it before
Hmm.
they swarm back on you. And the only thing
Yeah.
that the Pacers could exploit was Pascal Siakam matchups. That was
Right.
pretty much it. Halliburton was starting slow. Mathurin was on and off. Nembhard was inconsistent. He had some
Hmm.
moments. Miles Turner, I think that's one of the biggest disappointments in the series for me
Yeah.
from Indiana. I
Hmm.
was expecting him to kind of punish the OKC defense for going big against him. Just become that stretch five he's always been known as. But
Hmm.
it's tough when you see him breaking these open shots, and he hit them in the
Yeah.
first game.
Hmm.
But it was a bit it was a bit inconsistent from him, and I know he's aiming for a bag this offseason, and I think
Right.
this pretty much just lower that for me. Do
Yeah.
the we'll talk about this in a bit, but do the Indiana Pacers really want to pay at least 30 million for that when Halliburton is
Right.
out for a year?
Yeah.
You got to think about all those things if you're the
Yeah.
Pacers. And
Hmm.
I mean, we all know that Miles Turner has always been the Lakers' target. We'll see if the Lakers even
Right.
try,
Yeah.
if they even have cap space. But we'll get to that in a bit. Now,
Yeah.
one funny thing,
Yeah.
yeah, what was that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, speaking of the Lakers, I mean, then we're talking about OKC, how they were consistent the whole year. It seems like the one team that really exposed them the whole this whole season was the LA Lakers.
Well, I think that's because of how good Luca is.
Mm.
He's able
Yeah.
to, and even if Luca had these moments, he had trouble bringing the ball down. Remember,
Right.
he had, I believe, Dort or sometimes Williams
Right.
hounding him,
Oh
and
yeah,
he
that,
would
that game he got ejected for no reason.
right, and they
Yeah.
they force a lot of Luca turnovers,
Uh,
but at the same time, Luca was just an immense,
yeah.
great at shot making, and that's
Yeah.
how they punished this. That's not even how you do it, right? It's just hard
Yeah.
to punish this OKC defense, and
Mhm.
it doesn't help. And this is debatable. And it doesn't help if OKC's allowed a certain level of physicality
Mhm.
when the other team isn't, right?
Yeah.
OKC forces a lot of turnovers. OKC plays you physically. You can argue that there's some fouling over there,
Right.
but at the same time, when you do the same thing to them, SGA gets 20 free throws a game.
Yeah, it's true.
So think of it what you want. But again, I
Yeah.
love the way that OKC played defense, and that's probably as a blueprint. You mentioned it, the roster construction, especially
Yeah.
in this era of the second apron, where it's the LeBron formula of forming super teams is essentially
Right.
dead. There's no
Yeah.
way for you to contend consistently with a very top heavy roster
Right.
like what LeBron is used to doing since 2010. It's not going to work anymore because
No.
sign and
Yeah.
trades are harder, right?
Right.
Keeping teams together is harder because of the second apron.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the way to build your team right now is to build through the draft. And OKC is known to have hoarded a lot of first round picks to even get to this
Yes.
point. And they even have a lot more first round picks to trade now if they want
Right.
to even go all in. There's a way for them to actually extend this dynasty moving forward, and that's the scary part about this OKC team. So,
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but Sam Presti had a coach. There was a so basically there was a I think maybe this was Paul George's decision video. I'm not sure if you remember Paul George's 3-part decision
Oh, yeah,
of him staying in OKC.
Yeah.
There was a board, there was a whiteboard there, and on Sam Presti's office, pretty much said, "Scared money don't make money."
Yeah.
You know, this was his motivation for trading for Paul George in the first
Right.
place. And we all know how that ended up for
Yeah.
OKC. Thank you. They got us. You know what? They got to give Paul George and Kawhi Leonard rings for this.
Oh yeah.
The Clippers, maybe the Clippers as well, because you know
Right.
that horrible Paul George trade is paid off really. So,
Yeah.
hey, we'll see what happens with this OKC team in the future, but they're really scary. I think
Yeah.
the NBA has to take stock in this, and everyone who's building a team should take notes. This is the way you do it.
This is the way you do it. Yeah. Yeah. This is that's. I mean, it's not just them who showed us that example. You know, the San Antonio Spurs another example.
Yep,
You know,
They're on the way.
patience, building through the draft. You know,
they're on the way. We're gonna talk about that in a bit, but San
Yeah.
Antonio, crazy.
Yep.
They're gonna be real good, and well, they were good already. They were in playoff contention, but they're still young. But I mean, this is another
Hey.
team with a bright future here. So,
right?
you talking about Alex Caruso earlier, and
Yep.
it was it was a bit funny because I don't know if you traditionally when you're talking about NBA Finals wins, they usually have videos of them celebrating in the locker room, spraying champagne and all that.
Yep.
But apparently, the OKC team didn't do a lot of that, and they said it themselves. They didn't know how to pop champagne.
Wow.
This was well. Remember they're a young team, right?
Yeah.
I
It reminds you of remember when Kobe had that first championship? He's
I
like,
couldn't drink.
I didn't realize that champagne burns so much when it gets in your eyes.
You know, they were young. They're a young team. I
Yeah.
think they were one of the
young
youngest
team
teams in the NBA.
winning a championship. Yep.
And obviously, America has a very, very weird rule when it comes to alcohol.
Right.
I think over here it's a bit 18 or something, or maybe
Right.
even younger. But I know America is 21, so that's why these
21,
dudes
yeah.
can't enjoy alcohol if they wanted to. So
Right.
apparently, Alex Caruso was the one who taught them how to pop champagne because he already had experience in the bubble.
Yep.
Right. Speaking of Alex, I don't know if you've seen this. There was just an amazing shot of him in the parade. So I will show you, and I want to plug this because it's Alex Caruso, right? This is the man. This is the go right here.
Yeah.
Have a look at Alex Caruso in that celebration right there. Check out the shirt,
Oh.
bro. Check out the shirt. Let's zoom in a little bit. Check out the shirt. Look at that. Check out the shirt. He has
Yeah,
a shirt of Mount Rushmore with his face on it,
With his face on it. Yeah.
with a Lakers ring on his as a chain. This is the goat right here, man. I'm so
yeah.
I was sad that Alex left.
I know. Yeah.
He's always gonna be one of my favorite Lakers. But I'm happy that he was able to land in OKC just because the Bulls were stupid enough to trade him away for. I mean, Josh
Yeah.
Giddey's pretty good, but
Yeah.
Alex Caruso is an amazing player, and
Yep.
yeah, it as you said, it just paid off.